Baby, you a song, you make me wanna roll my windows down and cruise.
Hello and welcome into the first edition of the On the Farm podcast. I'm T.J. Mathewson, joined alongside the brains of this podcast, Jeremy Buch. Jeremy, how we doing?
We're doing great, and I just want to start this off. This is a prospects podcast, but at the same time, prospecting doesn't happen. Scouting doesn't happen without scouts. So I want to highlight one scout from the Mariners. Her name is Amanda Hopkins. She is taking the baseball world by storm. Her father was an assistant to the general manager of the Pirates. She has had 4 players drafted after being hired on by Seattle as a full-time scout for the Four Corners. She's had junior David Greer out of Arizona State, senior Nathan Bannister out of University of Arizona, shortstop Luis Boyd out of University of Arizona, and reliever A.J. Franks out of Grand Canyon. So she's done quite a job. All those players have had pretty good first years. So overall, I think she's doing a great job.
So the really cool thing I found about Hopkins' case is that right out of college, she goes to Central Washington University to study psychology. And her dad, Ron, was a baseball scout for the Pirates. And she spent all the time, notes like in this article I'm reading about her, she'd go to games with the dad all summer, going to Cape Cod League, Alaskan League, East Coast Showcase. And it really helped her love of baseball. And I think that's really cool. And she got a job right out of college, like age 22, major league job. I mean, she also made sure to talk about how hard it is in this industry for women to get a job, especially in a job like scouting, because women play softball traditionally and men play baseball. And to be a baseball scout while never playing baseball, as she noted, many current scouts are all ex-players, so they know what to look for. But Hopkins was not, and that's why it's so groundbreaking, right? It's just great. And getting a job in the MLB at age 22 is hard enough no matter how good you are at your job. And for Hopkins to get that and get it with, of course, my favorite baseball team, I think is incredibly cool.
It is very, very cool. And now moving on from that into our top 10 list, MLB Pipeline, MLB.com, is putting out their top 10 list of left-handers, right-handers, catchers, first basemen, the whole bit. And with the top 100 coming out, I figured we'd go over their top 10 rankings over the last few days, starting off with right-handers. I'm a big fan of this guy, 6'7", Forrest Whitley with the Astros. He goes from unranked last year to second on this list. He was the first-round pick out of San Antonio in 2016. He compiled a 5-4 record with a 2.83 ERA, 1.21 WHIP, 143 Ks through 92 innings pitched. He's projected to have 4 solid or better pitches, starting with a 92 to 95 mile an hour fastball, and more velocity will come as he fills into his body type. He's already in Double-A, and his pro comp is Josh Johnson, which just says it all. Another guy I'm big on is Brett Honeywell with the Rays. I've been waiting to see until they call him up.
I think he should be in the major leagues right now.
Right?
I want to see that screwball in the major leagues. We don't have a screwball in the majors. Like, it needs to be there.
I think the best thing with him is his humble beginning. He came out of Walter State Community College, and I couldn't tell you where Walter State is until I looked it up. It's in Tennessee. But up until then, he was this guy who just worked his butt off in college. The Rays took a shot at him in the draft, and it looks to pay off.
I mean, yeah. Rays have had a pretty good track record of developing pitchers. We've seen it with David Price. We've seen it with Chris Archer. We've seen it with Blake Snell coming up there. Alex Cobb. Who else? Drew Smiley. Don't get me started on Drew Smiley. Drew Smiley came up through the Tigers, but still, the Rays developed him as a young pitcher and made him pretty much who he was. So, I view the Rays as more as an organization that traditionally does very well with pitching, and I think Honeywell has a chance to go right along with that.
The last guy I'm going to highlight in these righties is Tristan McKenzie with the Indians. I was lucky enough. He went to Royal Palm Beach in Florida. He actually played my high school in the regional championship, and he absolutely torched my high school. This kid is a strikeout machine.
157 in 91 innings. Woo!
He went 12-6. He compiled a 3.46 ERA. He was in the futures game this year. He's averaging 11.7 strikeouts per 9.
The thing I'm probably most impressed with him, his season last year, 143 innings as a 20-year-old. Not too many 20-year-olds throwing that many innings. And his ETA 2019, well, you'd probably want to see him as 6'5", put on some more weight. He's only listed at a cool 165, probably 165 while wet. So it would probably be good to see him put on a little weight, get some durability in. And, Indians also great at developing pitching talent. Corey Kluber, Carlos Carrasco, Danny Salazar, Josh Tomlin. I'm stuck in football season. But anyways, it just another one. Just great.
Yep, and Tristan could definitely take over because a lot of their pitchers are only signed through 2020. So if they end up saying, Danny Salazar, you want too much money, Carrasco, you want too much money, he can slot in as a 2 or 3 and be just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeremy, before we move on, there are actually some more notable names that we just passed over. Shohei
Ohtani, your current favorite player in the MLB.
Yeah. So he is listed as the number 1 right-handed pitching prospect. I don't think he'll be that. Well, obviously, he's a major league player. He will not spend 1 minute in the minor leagues. I sincerely doubt that, even if he absolutely stinks it up in spring training. The dude is a legit player on both sides. As salty as I am that he didn't sign with my hometown Seattle Mariners and then he went to the division rival Angels, I think he's going to be a pretty good major league player. I'm scared for how he is going to be in pitching because we saw he got that sprain in his UCL that came up in the medical reports when he was signing with the Angels. But even at the plate, I think he's going to be a pretty good major league hitter. He has major league power. He's going to hit for a high average. And the Angels, I don't think the Angels are a great organization, but they have found a way to have 2 of the best young players in baseball on the same roster. I don't think Mike Trout could have been happier with this Shohei Ohtani signing.
I couldn't agree more. I think that there's a lot more to come for him. He's only 23, so he can obviously improve even more on what he already has, which is the even crazier part.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, one dude we just completely passed over, the 105-mile-an-hour man himself, Michael Kopech. I'm excited to see him. Holy crikey.
I will be honest. I am in the part with Michael Kopech where I guess I'm the minority where I think he'll end up being a setup man rather than a starter. I think that pitch, I think his command is good, but I don't think he can sustain that over multiple innings. I think he's more of a bullpen. He'll be the perfect setup man, potentially a closer for that hopeful 2020 White Sox roster.
That is going to be absolutely loaded. Holy crap. Anyway, looks like we can move on to our left-hand pitchers. I got all my prospect crushes out of the way on that.
Personally, left-handers, there's one that is clear and above for me, and that would be Mackenzie Gore. He dominated Rookie League, let alone dominating in high school. He had, coming out of Whiteville High School in North Carolina, posted a .19 ERA, something I've never heard of, and 158 strikeouts with 5 walks. So people doubted him, obviously, coming in. Oh, okay, he can't post a .19. Clearly he didn't. But in rookie ball, still put up a very, very respectable 1.27 ERA and a .97 whip. The kid's insane. On top of that, his teammate, hopefully, Adrian Morejon, has spent time between 2 Padre Clase A affiliates, and he is one of the youngest hurlers in their organization, posting a 3.86 with a 1.28 whip. He signed with the Padres back in July for $11 million. Back in July of 2016 for $11 million, and he is just paying off in every way, shape, and form.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Mackenzie Gore is a long way away, right? The dude's 18 years old, and he only threw 21 innings in that rookie ball. You need to be very careful when you're dealing with high school pitchers, but man, does he have the potential. Man, he's gonna be really good. I know I've said this probably for every dude we've talked about so far, but wow, he's good. I bet you if you put him in single A or double A, he'll strike some dudes out. I'm not kidding. I believe I've never seen him in person, but I would believe his stuff is that good.
His stuff is that good. And the next guy I want to cover on this list is Justice Sheffield. Sheffield was part of that Andrew Miller trade where now some people would say that they fleeced the Indians. I don't know about that, but definitely a phenomenal player. He was 7-6 with a 3.18 ERA and 17 starts for AA Trenton. He struck out 82 and only walked 33. He is one of these guys. He was out here in the fall league. He is pinpoint precision. He's very, very close to being major league ready. His ETA on Pipeline is 2018. I could see him coming up this season. May not be to start the season, but he is very, very capable of starting in an MLB rotation.
Because the Yankees are really lacking in true top-tier prospects, are they?
I don't know about lacking in prospects, but you could argue that the back end of their bullpen, mostly their 4 and 5, are not the greatest around the league. Not putting anything against Sonny Gray, but I just feel like between Sonny Gray and potentially CC Sabathia at 5, you kind of have this point where do we want to go with them if they start to struggle? There's other players here that you can really rely on in Chance Adams and or Justice Sheffield in this case.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only other guy that I really want to touch on in this left-handed pitchers, a potential rookie of the year in my opinion, Luis Gohara. The Braves have 3 pitchers on this list, but I believe Gohara can make the biggest impact now. He originally signed with the Mariners out of Brazil for $800,000 in 2012, but he is well worth that money and clear and above. The Braves obviously like what they saw and made him part of a deal that sent Malik Smith and Shea Simmons to Seattle, while Luis Gohara went back to Atlanta.
Yeah, that trade worked out great.
Yep. He has been compared to CC Sabathia, had a 2.62 ERA and registered 10.7 strikeouts per 9 over 26 appearances and 147 Ks. He also made it through 3 different levels this year, both through Florida, AA Mississippi, and AAA Gwinnett. And his average fastball sits at 96.5 miles an hour, which is the 5th highest velocity among MLB pitchers who threw at least 200 fastballs last year.
So when he was in the Mariners organization, I'm not the biggest guy on minor league prospects, but I had no idea that he would be ranked as high as 4th on this list this year. And I gotta say, Drew Smyly was not worth it for this. Definitely not worth it. Not worth trading him. The Mariners trading for him and giving up Gohara because Baseball America released their 30 farm system rankings. Came in last? The Mariners. So having some guy they had in their farm system last season who ranks this high, it's disappointing to see him off for a trade for a guy who never threw a pitch in a Mariners uniform.
It is definitely something else. I would have to say, moving on to the next top 10 list in catchers, this is probably just an insane list overall. I could see all these guys starting within the next 2 years. I mean, they're all studs. I don't see a person on this list that I'm questioning as much.
I mean, you start number 1 with Mejia, 51-game hit streak? Come on. 51?
It's crazy. He's just absolutely insane. It was the longest minor league hitting streak since 1963. And it was spanning over 4 months and 2 different levels.
That's 4 months. Dude got a hit in every game for 4 months.
And what's crazy, you might not even stick a catcher. I mean, the Indians tried him out at third base when he was out in the fall league. He's been kind of around different positions trying to help him defensively because offensively he's there. Offensively he's been there. It's defensively that they've been questioning, but I still think he's absolutely amazing, and I could just see him working out so well. Keibert Ruiz is my second guy I want to cover. He's someone not a lot of people know about. He is with the Dodgers organization. He's kind of smaller, 6 foot, 200 pounds. He's only 19, signed out of Venezuela. He's a switch hitter, which I love. It's crazy. Catching prospect that's a switch hitter. He split time in Class A, 2 Class A levels. He hit .316. He had an .813 OPS, and he's displayed catching skills well beyond where he should. They are saying, though, that he has more pop in his bat from the left side than the right, but this kid is just insane, and the Dodgers keep getting these international guys that show up and show out every year.
It's what successful organizations do. They don't just draft. They sign guys internationally. And Dodgers, we've seen it. Puig, big. Was Urias a international
Urias
signing?
was.
Yeah, he's like, despite the fact he's thrown 40 major league innings, maybe, but you know,
injury hurt, but
yeah.
I mean, coming back this year, he's still a deadly part of that rotation.
Yeah. So, hey man,
Yep.
them catchers.
Them catchers, and it even gets better. Jake Rogers from the Tigers. This guy, you could argue he's the best defensive player in the minors. This kid was a catcher out of Tulane. He was picked by the Astros and was brought to the Tigers through the Justin Verlander trade. He is an outstanding receiver who moves well behind the plate and works well with pitchers. He has a plus arm. He has a combination of good arm strength with a quick release and insane accuracy. And he cut down 46% of people got caught stealing against him. This kid is
good.
Ready to go, bona fide. Has to obviously work on his offensive ability, but this kid could be a backup catcher and just be a defensive juggernaut.
I mean, we've seen it a lot in the major leagues where teams aren't too focused on the purely offensive catchers. I mean, we see Buster Posey, maybe Mike Zunino, but in general, catcher's not really a position that has produced much offense in the majors. We've noticed that trend over the past few years, so I think Rogers fit right in.
Yep. And then the last guy I really want to touch on, kind of the Cinderella story, if you will. Danny Jansen with the Blue Jays was a 16th rounder in 2013 out of a Wisconsin high school. His development at first got stalled to injuries. He broke his bone in his left hand to derail his first full season and broke a hamate in his left hand that took him out in 2016. But this kid hit .323 across the minor leagues. I mean, he went through all three levels of high A, double A, and triple A in the same year. I mean, that should tell you enough. He got called up to he put on the 40-man to avoid Rule 5. The kid has amazing talent, and with Greg Mahle and Russell Martin, it's not too much competition for him in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, Blue Jays got to start getting younger eventually, right? Looks like they're looking to move Donaldson. David Price was gone a few years ago. You don't know if Marcus Stroman's young. Aaron Sanchez is young. They have a young closer in Roberto Ozuna. So this is a team that went from an old team, and they're now transitioning into this youthful team that are looking to try and compete with the Red Sox and the Yankees, who are both very young teams. So, Blue Jays trying to follow suit.
Yeah, the Blue Jays have plenty of other guys on these lists, and we'll get to them later. But
now,
right now, getting on to the first baseman, we're just going to touch on this first. Most of these guys are first-round picks, and that's crazy. A lot of these guys are first-round picks, and the fact that they're panning out is pretty awesome. The first one, Brendan McKay, he's actually ranked as the first baseman and the fifth best third left-handed pitcher, which is absolutely crazy. He could be a two-way player. I want to see how long the Rays actually allow him to have that, how long his leash is with that.
What do you think he should do?
Personally, I think at first with this kind of pitching, because he was a college pitcher, he was better at pitching. Honestly, I could see the Rays just kind of determining if they need a first baseman or a pitcher. I'm going to assume they'd want a pitcher. I don't know at this point, but I don't think it's as much up to Brendan as people make it seem. I think the Rays ultimately have a plan, but they obviously want to test out both sides, because if he surprises them, then he goes for something else.
Looking at his stats, his college stats, I would think he would probably want to be a hitter, but when your backup option is when you go 11-3 with a 2.56 ERA and 148 strikeouts, that's not a bad backup option for the Rays. Wow.
Yep, and then the other three guys that I'm about to talk about all were this year's first-round draft picks. Pavin Smith from Virginia. He, I hate to spoil this for people, but he is the eventual heir to first base with the Diamondbacks. Paul Goldschmidt, whether he retires or leaves, however it ends up happening, Pavin Smith is that guy. That's the reason they drafted him in the first round. He is definitely a great hitter. He absolutely destroyed it, hitting .318 in his first professional year. I mean, that's all I can really say about the kid. And then Nick Pratto from the Royals has been compared to the beloved Kansas City Royal, well, hopeful Kansas City Royal, Eric Hosmer, and also Joey Votto from the Reds. He's really been praised for his defense, and his offensive numbers are nothing to laugh at either. He is very, very capable of being great in this league in a few years.
I mean, I'm excited for Evan White. I mean, like I've mentioned, how the Mariners have the 30th ranked farm system. He's their second ranked prospect, so that means he's probably the one with the second most equity in there besides Kyle Lewis. The dude's a great defensive first baseman. He finally broke out the powers junior year of college, hit 10 home runs at Kentucky, and before getting injured in the Northwest, the rookie league, hit 277. So not a bad start. His ETA is 2020, which is about right. I mean, I wish he could be in the major league sooner, but I'm excited for this kid. I think he's gonna be pretty good.
Yeah, my only other guy on this list that I'm kind of excited for, Peter Alonso. I was able to watch him in spring training, but right now he's in Double-A, second-round pick. He hit .311 in Double-A. He's not a power guy. He's just a very, very dependable, put-the-ball-in-play kind of kid. But with Dominic Smith blocking up first base and I guess Adrian Gonzalez for now, I wonder if he could be a trade piece for a reliever or a starter for the Mets in the future.
Maybe a trade piece for some good health.
That was a shot.
Yeah.
Moving on to second baseman, one of my favorite prospects in baseball right now, Scott Kingery. Watched him in the fall league. The kid absolutely deserves to have a shot at second base with Cesar Hernandez. I think that he could start this year. Cesar Hernandez has been great for the Phillies, but Kingery is the future. He is absolutely just a hitting machine. He hit in Double-A and Triple-A. No pitcher seems to figure him out, and I think that he just has a great future with the Phillies organization. That team in general just has a great future.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And then Luis Urias. This is my bold prediction. Not so bold, but he will be starting at shortstop for the Padres by the end of the season. I know they got Freddie Galvis. He is purely a placeholder for either Luis Urias or another guy in this list we'll touch on in just a few seconds here. But Urias is an absolute hitter. He hit .296. His on-base percentage was .398. I mean, the kid's ready. He doesn't have great power, but he could hit. He hit a home run in the fall league that I couldn't tell you how far it landed, but it sounded deep. It was one of those things. He's only 20. He's got so much time to grow. I mean, this team obviously is rebuilding, but they're on their way up.
Yeah. Padres, Hunter Renfroe, getting his feet wet this year, still striking out a lot. They had Manuel Margot, who was their pretty much everyday center fielder. He was okay. But this kid, I watched him in the fall league too. He didn't stand out that much to me, but that's mostly because the Peoria team he played on was absolutely loaded. And he was batting second for him. So that says something. You mentioned he has a great hit tool. You can see by the average. Like shortstop, as mentioned, more traditional now. That is not going to be a premier power position. So he's just going right with Fold. And for the Padres, looking for some guys to kind of take him to the next step, I think he's one.
Yeah, and then the only other guy that I'm really interested in here is Keston Hiura. He was drafted 9th overall by the Brewers this year, and he was arguably the top college hitter. He hit .442 as a junior at Cal Irvine, which is crazy. And he had some right elbow injury that limited him. That's why he kind of slipped a little bit. But this kid breezed through rookie league, hitting .435, hit .333 in single A, putting the ball in play, just getting on base. He had .500 on base percentage. He's a .422 through the entire year. The kid just knows how to get on base. I don't know if second base is his full-time home, but for now it works. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to say the other guy, Nick Solak, is a big guy for me. 301 in Tampa. He's similar to Tyler Wade. He's got that tenacity, that grit out of Louisville in the second round of 2016. Made his way up to Trenton, hit 286, made a very, very respectable time, and he's doing a great job. And I think that he could definitely be in AAA and even maybe hit the majors by the end of the year. That all just depends on how he hits. And that's basically it for second baseman. Moving on to the shortstop, or the third baseman. Third baseman, Vlad Guerrero. Is there anything else to say? His dad just got inducted to the Hall of Fame today. The kid is absolutely insane. He tore up low A, tore up high A, 323 average, 13 home runs, 76 RBIs, and 76 walks in his first major league appearance, his first full year.
As it looks right now, he's going to probably be as good as his dad, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, no, he is an absolute stud. Nick Senzel in the same boat. I think he'll be starting for the Reds by the end of this year, taking over third baseman Eugenio Suarez. 305 in high A, 340 in double A, 321 over the year. He's only in double A, but plenty of guys have shot up. Victor Robles is a perfect example. Shot right up from double A up. It was great. He's absolutely insane. He doesn't have that much else to prove out of Tennessee's second overall pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much else to touch on with him. Austin Riley, great defensive third baseman prospect. Finally got that bat behind him, hitting 315 in double A for the Braves. He was a competitive balance pick, 41 in 2015. I was able to watch him in the fall league. The kid is amazing. He saves so many potential doubles. I mean, this kid will save hits all day, every day from the hot corner. And my last guy, Brian Anderson, also in the fall league, got to watch him. He hit 339 in AAA. And the kid is now on the Marlins. Obviously, the Marlins are going through a rebuild, but he could be that nice third base spot. I don't see him going anywhere. I think the team likes him overall. He's just a good, solid player, and I could just see him sticking there for a long time. Shortstop-wise, this is kind of the real fun one. Starting off, Gleyber Torres is a given for this one. He's basically an infielder at this point. But Fernando Tatis Jr. was traded from the White Sox to the Padres for James Shields. Now, we can all laugh now, but back then, apparently it was a decent trade. I don't know whose mind that was. But this kid had a 2020 year in single A, had 21 home runs, 69 RBIs, and walked 75 times. The kid is absolutely insane. He also had 32 stolen bases between two leagues last year as a shortstop at 6'3", 185. The kid is a stud. He will be filling in that Padres infield. Like I said, him and Urias could rule that NL West middle infield for a long, long time. Bo Bichette, second-round pick, was committed to Arizona State, believe it or not. He chose to go to the Blue Jays. Good decision for him. Hit 362 in his first full year, making it to Dunedin, which is the high A team. Hitting 14 home runs, 74 RBIs, walking 42 times, 22 stolen bases. The kid is absolutely insane. Much better than his older brother, Dante Bichette Jr., who's still sitting in Trenton for the Yankees, the Double-A team. And he is just absolutely demolishing pitching right now.
I say ASU probably could have used him last year.
Probably. And, I mean, him and Vlad Guerrero Jr. at short and third, or even second and third, is not a bad combo.
Could you imagine that? Oh, my God.
Oh, it's absolutely insane. The only guy on this list I'm kind of debating is J.P. Crawford. He has been a prospect for so long.
Yeah.
I need him to finally break out and do something. I haven't seen it yet. I'm just hoping that this year's finally year. I like the kid. It just his hitting has gone down every year.
243 in AAA.
I don't know. I like him. I want him to stay there. I don't know if he'll stick. And the only other guys I want to touch on are the duo of shortstops, Nick Gordon and Royce Lewis. Nick Gordon may be 10th on this list, but he is probably the closest to reaching the majors. I think that he is one of the better guys. Royce Lewis, what else can you say? First overall pick, 5-tool kid. Great. Just absolutely amazing. So that's kind of our wrap for these top 10 lists. TJ, who's going to be number one in the top 100 if you take a guess?
Not counting Ohtani.
Counting Ohtani.
Counting Ohtani? Then Ohtani, definitely.
I'm kind of stuck. I would say Ronald Acuna from the Braves or Vlad Guerrero Jr. Those are my top two.
I have trouble counting Ohtani. I know Ohtani is a prospect and he still hasn't played a major league game, but I don't really want to count him as a prospect. I would honestly still say Gleyber Torres, even though I saw Acuna play in the fall league, and he is good. The Braves are going to be set up well in the outfield for the future. I still do think Gleyber deserves the number one. He was just too good.
I could definitely agree with that, and just furthering that point, I mean, he's great. I think Ronald Acuna just has that raw stuff that I think almost every single farm director, every single GM would love to have on their team, which is why Yelich's asking price is Ronald Acuna. It makes sense. Vlad Guerrero Jr., just because of the year he had, I think he could definitely make that shot. He'll be a top 3 regardless, but I think that he is amazing. I think that kid could definitely make it number 1. And then we're just going to quickly go over some prospects that have benefited from trades in the offseason, the guys that have really, really taken by storm. Sandy Alcantara went from the Cardinals, now starting rotation for the Marlins. That's big for him. Magneuris Sierra also in that deal for Marcell Ozuna, can start in center.
Young talent. Marlins need Marlins had young talent, and it didn't work out. Now they're going to try again with more young talent.
Yep, and then another guy I'm really, really big on is Colin Moran, third baseman, going to the Pirates. Obviously, Garrett Cole hurt to trade. It was not easy, but they made the deal anyway. And as you can see, hopefully this year, Colin Moran's going to show you why he's worth it. So the last thing we're going to end on is just a sleeper prospect of mine. Outfielder Stuart Fairchild for the Reds. He was drafted out of Wake Forest in the second round by the Reds. He was a Washington high schooler back in 2014, and him and Gavin Sheets were two kids that got drafted out of Wake Forest. I like Fairchild a lot. He went to the Pioneer League, and he hit .304 with a .393 on-base percentage. The kid just has that tenacity in the outfield. The Reds don't really need an outfield right now, but definitely in the future, he can play all 3 outfield positions. He's got a lot of versatility, and I could see him being really, really good in the future.
Yeah, thing I'd noticed most, he's from my hometown, Seattle, Washington, went to Seattle Prep. I agree. I like the Reds. Like, I'm still waiting for them to do something. They've had 3 or 4 bad years in a row. I'm still waiting for that farm system to bear something. It seems like Senzel is there, and then Hunter Green eventually is going to get there. But if this kid is as good as you think he is, they'll be ready faster than I thought.
Yep, hopefully. Well, this has been On the Farm, Episode 1. Tune in next time as we recap the top 100 list when it's released on Saturday.
Yeah, thanks for listening.